David and Goliath. Many years ago, there was a boy named David who was the son of Jesse and the youngest of 8 brothers. He spent his days quietly tending to sheep and working as an armor bearer for the king. His 3 oldest brothers went to follow Saul to the battlefield because at that time there was a war raging between the Philistines and the Israelites, and Saul was the king of Israel. However, the Philistines had a very tall and fearsome soldier on their side. His name was Goliath. Goliath was 9 feet tall and he towered over everyone. An armor bearer even went with him. Saul even offered a huge reward to anybody who would fight Goliath, but still no one was brave enough to try. For 40 days and nights, he thundered into the battlefield shouting, "Send the man to fight me. If he defeat me, my people will become your servants. But if I defeat him, your people will become our slaves." One morning, Goliath stood between the 2 armies and shouted his usual threat. However, it was so on that day when David visited his 3 brothers in the army camp. He was fed up of hearing this giant insult his people who worked hard and put their faith in God to protect them. So he went to Saul and said, "I, your servant, will fight this giant." Saul said, "David, you are only a boy, and Goliath has been a warrior his entire life." David said, "If God can protect me while I keep my sheep safe, he will definitely protect me in a battle against this giant." Nobody knew that David frightened bears and lions that tried to attack his flock, using only his trusty slingshot. Even though he may have been young, he had excellent aim. So Saul dressed him in his golden armor and even handed him his magnificent sword. But when David tried to walk, he could not move. So David took off the shining armor and handed the sword back to Saul. Then Saul said, "Go, and may the Lord be with you." David went to the riverbank and carefully chose 5 smooth stones and placed them in his shepherd's pouch. He took a deep breath, then walked across the battlefield where Goliath was waiting to fight. When Goliath saw him, he laughed and asked him, "David, am I a dog that thou comest to me with staves?" David said, "You may raise a sword and spare me, but I come to you in the name of the Lord." Then David slid a stone into his sling. The smooth stone span through the air, and as ever, David's aim was true. The stone hit Goliath right in the forehead, making a deep cut. For a moment, he stood completely still. Then with a stagger, a stumble, and with an almighty crash, Goliath fell down to the ground. The enemy had been defeated. Therefore, David chopped off Goliath's head using Goliath's own sword. And when the Philistines saw that their champion was dead, they fled. Therefore, David became a famous hero in all of Israel. This story tells us about courage, bravery, and faith, and that pride will lead to a fall, and that with God we can stand our ground and be victorious. Thank you.